Senator Barrasso is joining us from Russell Rotunda. He is ready to go, and I want to get our viewers in and able to talk to the senator. But let me just begin, Senator Barrasso. Is there news to announce here on a compromise? Have you heard from your leadership?
Well, Greta, I think there is still a bipartisan, actually a majority of members of the Senate in a bipartisan way that would like to avert this so-called nuclear showdown. I visited with a number of Democrat senators this morning who had told me that, some in the leadership. So we're continuing to work on this. We had a very productive discussion last night. Just about every member of the Senate was in the old Senate chambers where, obviously the history of this great country comes from, and it does have an effect on the discussion. And I think people listened very carefully. We went for over 3.5 hours, but in a bipartisan way, we left together in multiple discussions after the meeting in a bipartisan way. So I think people are still looking for a solution even this morning.
If Harry Reid goes through with the nuclear option and he has the votes to change the Senate rules on executive nominations, how will the Republicans respond? Will you retaliate, and if so, how?
Well, all I would say to that is that when the shoe was on the other foot, when it looked like the Republicans were going to use this so-called nuclear option when President Bush was in office, Harry Reid was the one that said, I know a lot of ways to screw up the Senate. And I don't think that's in the best interest of the American people. What we have to do is what's right for the country. I was not a member of the Senate then, but I thought it was short-sighted for Senator Reid to make all of these threats about shutting down the Senate. I think we have to say what's in the best interest of the American people, and what's in the best interest of the American people is the role that the Senate should play in advice and consent when it comes to the president's nominees. And President Obama has been very successful with his nominees to the point, and you were showing the policy paper that showed of the 1,564 nominees brought forth by the president, 1,560 were confirmed. So only 4 were not in the first term and then so far into the second term of President Obama. And what we also know is when it comes to cabinet level appointees, President Obama's appointees are being confirmed at a faster rate than the appointees were either by Bill Clinton or by George W. Bush. So the president's record is good, if not better, than previous presidents, but yet we have this manufactured crisis today and what looks to be a showdown coming, but I'm trying to find a solution to avert it.
All right, well, let me throw out what the Democrats say. Their numbers are 16 filibusters of Obama nominees as the impetus for the rules change, compared with 20 filibusters on executive nominations for all other presidents prior to the Obama administration.
And every one of those, every cabinet member has gotten confirmed. On the judges, the president has a better record, much better record, till this time in his second term, much better record than George W. Bush. So a filibuster is the phrase they use, but a lot of times it's just to get answers to questions. Senator Sanders was on here a few minutes ago talking about the EPA nominee, and this is at a time when Senator Sanders says, well, we have to be talking about global warming. To me, this looks like it's a war on American jobs when the president declares a war on coal. Those are jobs that are important. We all know it's important that we make energy as clean as we can, as fast as we can. We have to do it in ways that don't affect and don't hurt the quality of life of American families in terms of higher costs for energy and loss of jobs.
Okay.
So when the nominee who the president brings forward was essentially the field general in the first Obama administration in the first 4 years at the EPA, and then she gets nominated to lead the whole agencies, there are clearly questions to be asked and answered before we're willing to vote for her or against her.
All right, let's hear from Ed in Indiana, independent caller. Hi, Ed.
Hey, good morning. How are you? This is for the senator, and I don't want to destroy his last name, so I'll just go try to be respectful and say senator. Here's my question. I want some clarity on some things here, and I think it's the overwhelming topic will probably encompass the whole thing. And that comes down to this. Well, I've been watching the Senate hearings here for the last few days, And what I'm understanding is this from the Republican side, is that the reason why this filibuster has taken the angle that it's taken and problem is not necessarily because of the filibuster, but once again, wouldn't it be the fact that President Obama, which he's been very active in doing, is abusing his executive privilege as president by under the radar again, putting these appointees in the RL, relationship board, and they're still doing policy, and they were doing that when you guys were under recess.
Okay, Senator.
Well, with the NLRB, the two nominees who are in question, they were appointed in recess appointments, and presidents of both sides of the aisle have used recess appointments over the years. When President Bush was in his second term, Harry Reid actually came up with a strategy to say the Senate would go into these pro forma sessions every 3 days, so President Bush could not make a recess appointment. So they'd come in and gavel in, and C-SPAN covered these 60-second or 90-second sessions, and then President Bush didn't make recess appointments at the end of his first term. So when that process continued with President Obama, he said, I don't care, he's going to make recess appointments. And he did on these two NLRB folks, and he recess appointed them before they ever even had a hearing in the Senate. So the senators didn't have an opportunity to ask questions. This actually has gone to court, and the D.C. District Court has ruled these two appointees as being illegal. And now the Supreme Court is going to take it up. So this is a major issue. This is exactly what my friend from Indiana is asking, that this goes way beyond filibuster issues. This is about the president's making appointments that the courts are now ruling illegal.
Casey is a Republican in New Orleans, and you're on the air with Senator Barrasso. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you for C-SPAN. Yes, I am a Republican. I did not vote for President Obama, and I don't support most of the policies of the Democrats. However, I have to say, as a Republican, that I actually support Senator Reid's efforts, because having a Congress that is frozen and unable to move forward on anything is not healthy for the country.
The point where I agree with you is that we need to have people in these positions. And it's disturbing when you see that Secretary Napolitano, Secretary of Homeland Security, has now resigned to take an education job in California, that the stories aren't just about her. They're the fact that the Department of Homeland Security, the department that is responsible for keeping us safe, that at the major levels of leadership, there are 15 vacancies. And these are names that haven't even been brought forth, that the president hasn't nominated. Some of these are in need of Senate confirmation. The president hasn't put up a name yet for Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security, for the person in charge of ICE. That person has left. So you take a look at all of these vacancies. The same thing at the State Department. Senator Kerry got confirmed, and I voted for him for Secretary of State. He got confirmed 97-3, and yet at the major leadership levels at the Department of State, there are 11 vacancies, and names haven't even been brought forth by this administration. So I think the president and the White House has to do their job, because we need to function as a nation, and it's not what's happening on the Senate floor that's preventing it. It's an administration which is slow to even put names forward.
By the way, the New York Times editorial board weighs in on this debate this morning, a step to majority rule in the Senate, and they argue that this is a precedent worth setting. Edward, Plymouth, Michigan, independent caller. Go ahead, Edward.
Hi. Good to talk with you, Senator.
Thank you.
Glad to be on C-SPAN. Thank you so much for this cable network. I just wanted to say that I'm not really surprised that the Democrat Party is coming against this filibuster. They've long been a party that has obstructed the rights of minorities. Back in the 1950s, when Dwight Eisenhower, the Republican, was president, he tried to get in a civil rights bill, and the Senate, Democrats in the Senate filibustered the bill. and that would have helped the minorities in that area. And I'm just really hoping that the Republicans can stand strong in this, and that you and the other Republicans there in the Senate can work together with the Democrats, keep the filibuster. We need it. It really makes me proud that one person in the Senate can stand up for all the rights of the minorities that they represent.
All right, Edward, I'm going to leave it there. And Senator, you can respond to Edward, but Freelancer on Twitter says this about this debate. The Senate's job is to advise and consent on nominees, not the office the nominee is to hold. GOP is wrong here.
Well, with regard to what Ed has said, the whole history of the Senate is to protect the rights of the minority, of a minority opinion, to have those rights heard, expressed. I mean, that's why the Senate was set up the way it was. When you take a look at the Founding Fathers, they talked about the Senate as being the saucer to cool the coffee, to allow for opportunity for discussion and debate, but was basically established to make sure that the rights of the minority were heard, because as we as a nation broke away from England and the king, the concern was that the king ruled everything, and we wanted to make sure that other voices would be heard. So the Founding Fathers, in their wisdom, set up a system of the House, which was really designed for majority rule alone, and the Senate was set up with the purpose of protecting the rights of the minority.
Jeanette is next. Seattle, Washington, Democratic caller.
Hi, I think we should fire all of them, all of Congress, and start over again.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a do-nothing Congress.
Okay, Senator?
They have done absolutely nothing.
Well, you know, I go back to Wyoming every weekend, listen to the folks who vote in my home state. Was there yesterday and through the weekend in a lot of small communities. And I think as long as you have members who are here in Washington representing their folks in terms of what are their constituents and then what's important for our nation, I think that's what we could continue to have, an elected group of representatives to represent the people and to go home and talk to them and listen to them frequently.
Senator Barrasso, the Washington Times editorial board has this morning, a blue slip for amnesty, saying that the Senate's immigration bill has a $459 billion tax increase and that it violates the Constitution's origination clause, saying that all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. The Washington Times is saying House Republicans should blue slip the Senate legislation and send it back. Do you agree with that strategy?
You know, the immigration bill passed the Senate in a bipartisan way. I voted against it. I have concerns about this, but we need immigration reform in this country. There are important works that need to be done. We're a nation of immigrants, and I want the House to come up with their own approach and their own solutions, and then work toward immigration reform that continues to focus on legal immigration for this country.
Andy, in Wallingford, Connecticut, independent caller.
I just called to say that this whole filibuster thing is a scam because it's not in the Constitution, and this whole story doesn't make any sense. And I think the Egyptians have more democracy than we do, because this whole filibuster thing, it's not in the Constitution. Why is the vice president the tie-breaking vote? And this thing's just a scam between the Republicans and Democrats.
Well, I would just say that it's important, I think, when major legislation to affect the nation ought to be done in a bipartisan way. When the health care law was passed on partisan lines with no Republican voting for it, here we are 3.5 years later with an unraveling of a health care law because it was one side saying we know what's best for the country. It continues to be very unpopular. By 2 to 1, Americans think it's going to make their health care worse rather than better. You have many, many more people wanting to have the whole thing either repealed than think that it's going to actually help them or their families. People believe the costs of care are going to go up, their taxes are going up, the debt goes up. And this was what happens when you have legislation that does not have bipartisan buy-in, that does not have many people working together to come up with a solution. And that's why you need I believe the rights of the minority to express themselves, to be heard, to be incorporated into the outcome, and to avoid the kind of problems that we're facing right now with this very unpopular health care law that we're continuing to have to live with. And now the president has even said, well, let's delay for a year the employer mandate. You know, politicians don't delay legislation that people like or want or are eager to have. They want to delay politicians want to delay legislation that people hate. And that's what's happening with this health care law. So I think that speaks to the need to have the opportunity for the majority and minority, and almost the mandate that they work together, which is why the founding fathers wanted us to have a right to slow down the discussion.
Senator John Barrasso, I know you have to run. We want to thank you for your time this morning and talking to our viewers. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greta.